Kata pakalima. Mano kara fukulungu. Police station mandi kasate o sate ndem boyta abere. Hani station klimawi. That is deliberate. Abele yomoy.
Ya, assalamu alaikum badimuna namo be kontang wato nal kontangula anal badem mala Suleiman Cham na Kunkujang UDP Bureau YouTube channel momo be follow kan sen like ya subscribe ya share bi alhamdulillah na misra wala mon na right party leader right honorable Ousainu Darboe na party leader United Democratic Party
to the great people of the Gambia, and I want to take this moment to say a belated Eid Mubarak, belated Eid Karim to all our Muslim brothers who have completed their 30 days of fasting, and some are fasting their 6th-day bonus. Want to congratulate them for going through this month of sacrifice, month of steadfastness, and a month of self-discipline. I also want to congratulate our Christian brothers who are still fasting and who in a few days' time will be celebrating these great events in the calendar of the Christian religion, the event of the crucifixion of Christ. We congratulate them for all their fast and their prayers for the peace and tranquility of this country. Gambia cannot wish for better prayers than peace and stability. In the past few days or few weeks, some significant events have happened in this country. These events, to some, say validation of their struggle for the change of government in 2016. For them, it was a fruit or testimony of the independence of the judiciary that they had always wanted. We've seen the trial of Ousainu, who was charged and prosecuted for an offense he never really did. The upright judge, Justice Jaite, very courageous judge, treated the evidence as it is and gave it the deserving treatment it should have. And that is to discharge and acquit Ousainu. That's a landmark judgment in this country. It also shows how much independent some of our judges want to be. And I'm sure the greater majority of the adjudicators, from the magistracy to the Supreme Court, they all want to and will assert their independence against executive interference in their adjudication process. Of greater significance is the acquittal and discharge of Ousainu and his sister for their imagined participation in the murder of our servicemen, people who were on the streets, to make sure that those of us in our houses are safe, and to make sure that those on the streets are equally safe. They were murdered in cold blood. I did not make any statement at that time. My party did not make any statement at that time because Adama Barrow's government through the Deputy Inspector General of Police and the government spokesman, demonized UDP as the terrorist group that was responsible for the murder of these people, to the extent of linking the killer to someone who was closely connected with Yankuba Darboe, and in essence also connected with the United Democratic Party. The whole objective was to make that stick, and that would give this failing government, this government that has lived in perpetual fear of UDP, lead to its proscription. It would have been declared as an illegal society, an illegal organization, an organization that is prone to violence, promote violence. In fact, I personally was accused of being an accomplice in this murder. I may seek redress for those defamatory and slanderous statements against me. But for now, we thought we should just be on the quiet, because whatever actions we might have taken, whatever statements we might have made, would have been seen as self-serving statements or as self-serving actions. Now that the trial has come to a conclusion, without a single witness insinuating the involvement of the United Democratic Party or any of its citizens, we think fit that we should say something about it now. The criminal justice system should not be used to witch hunt political opponents. This is precisely the plan that the former Deputy Inspector General of Police and the government spokesman and whatever security personnel whose advice they might have relied on, that was their main mission, that was their main plan, to paint us as violent people. We have, for 30 years, fought against dictatorship. We have, for 30 years, fought against injustice. We have, for 30 years, resisted undemocratic practice in this country. We have, for 30 years, fought against crimes in this country. But then they set themselves on a mission to project us as criminals who go to the extent of killing serving officers on duty. There couldn't have been a greater crime than that. It could even have amounted to treason. Not only murder, but even to treason. But they have failed. The evidence of that unfolded showed sloppy and shoddy investigation. It showed incompetence in the prosecution. And that is why Ousainu and his sister were acquitted and discharged. It is now the duty of this government, Barrow, it is now your duty to mount up proper investigations in order to find out those who killed these serving officers. Those who have put that young lady in a state of trauma. I'm sorry, she still continues, she's still suffering from the trauma she suffered on that fateful night when she was shot. I'm so when she passes by that scene, the Tuesday's recollections would be very sour, very hurtful. This must be investigated. And if you do not carry out proper investigations, I can assure you that the next government will carry out a thorough investigation to unearth the actual murderers of our serving men. You know, before the TRRC started its operations, all the heinous crimes that were being committed, nobody bothered to investigate them until there was a change of government and proper investigations conducted, and led to revealing those responsible for the atrocities, for the heinous crimes. And I can assure Gambians that coming a change of government, certainly this crime will be investigated and properly investigated. And the culprits, wherever they may be, except if they are in their graves, wherever they may be, they will be prosecuted. Let me congratulate Honorable Justice Ibrahim Jaite, a valiant judge, a judge of courage. He cannot be described by any lawyer as a timorous soul. He is one who has asserted the independence of the country to show that the rule of law flourishes in this country. That the rule of law salutes you through the great people of the Gambia. And in fact, will never at any time be disturbed. Congratulations, Honorable Justice Ibrahim Jaite. You convicted where the offense, where the evidence justified conviction. You acquitted where the evidence justified acquittal. Of course, you are aided in this judgment in arriving at right conclusions by the industry of lawyer Lamin J. Darboe and his team. Their industry, their hours of research assisted you, Justice Ibrahim Jaite, in arriving at the right conclusions. In fact, Lamin J. Darboe and his team never subdued to any vile suggestions that puts them in any state of fear. With the courage they had, prosecuted, defended the case without looking behind. That is what true advocates always do. Cases that the executive have an interest in, they defended them without fearing the consequences. Congratulations, Lamin Darboe. You and Justice Jaite make me to be proud of my profession. That whatever happens, the rule of law will always prevail. But we are shocked about after the post-judgment conduct of the executive. You see, my fellow countrymen, our constitution is very clear on this, that every agency, every department of government must assist the proper implementation of orders of the court and directions of the court. And the greatest agent, the biggest agent, are not the parastatals, it is the executive that has that bigger role. It runs contrary to the principles that we know, respect for court orders. Whenever court orders are made, they take immediate effect, unless the judge or presiding officer directs over otherwise. But immediately Justice Jaite pronounced the acquittal or the disastrous failure of the prosecution's case, that order took immediate effect. And the government of the Gambia is expected to honor and respect the orders of the court. We are going back to the Jammeh days, when courts make order that does not favor the state. They disregard it, ignore the order with impunity. The law does not encourage self-help, and that is exactly what the executive did in this matter. Because self-help invariably leads to violence. That is why the youths are out. They wouldn't have been out if the government did not resort to self-help. get whatever processes that you want to have and ask for it to be given a certificate of urgency, serve on the other party, and then let the things go in the normal way. But arresting Ousainu and his sister after the acquittal is really telling the judge that we do not accept the validity of your judgment. Every judgment is presumed valid until it is set aside. The Attorney General knows that very well, more than anybody. All the lawyers in the Ministry of Justice know that more than anybody. You have a huge number of serving police officers who are lawyers. They ought to respect the rule of law. They ought to respect court orders. President Barrow, the behavior of the executive following the acquittal of Ousainu and his sister is really telling us that we are going back to the Jammeh days. Arrest them. Ignore the court orders. And that is not the raison d'etre of your election as president of the country. You have asked that let us live in peace. But let us also do things that will ensure that peace prevails in this country. We shouldn't do anything that will be the antithesis of peace. Anything that undermines peace and stability of this country, you as president should be the first person to ensure that that happens. Anything that will interfere or push people to behave in any way that will be prejudicial to the public peace, you must prevent that. I ask you to order that Ousainu be released. And Mr. AG, you and your team must know that whatever appeals you are doing is not to enrich the jurisprudence. Because there is nothing recondite in the law that has been dealt with in this case. They are simple, ordinary matters in the prosecution of cases. So I would expect you, Honorable Attorney General, that you would be an Attorney General, not a Minister of Justice. The Attorney General concerns himself only about legal issues without regard to any political consideration. We should make sure that nobody in this country is put in a situation where they will be in confrontation with the law enforcement agencies of this country. We have heard reports of a fastener who was struck by a canister at Brufut Market. Is currently admitted in hospital in state of unconsciousness. There is also a report of a 6-month baby. We cannot confirm that. That is also suffering from the effects of tear gas. How can anybody really go to a populated place like Brufut Market and open tear gas on bystanders? And again, President Barrow, I think some of your law enforcement officers are bent on undermining the credibility of your government. And this you must accept. Because everybody is tired. So anything that will make you lose a vote, they will do it. And I know that you're going to lose a lot of votes because of this misbehavior by members of your security forces. And again, President Barrow, all senior officers in all the security outfits, they are all aware and cognizant of the recommendations made by Honorable Youth, who chaired the Farawa Bantan riot incident. The recommendations he made is there, and that should be a guide for every occasion when there is need to control or to deal with the crowd. But that is ignored because no consequences follow with the unlawful use or the misuse of their weapons. I want to encourage Lamin Darboe to please take civil action against the Inspector General of Police and any other security agencies that might be involved in this for false arrest and false imprisonment. And I hope also that we'll look at that law which says that when a person is acquitted and discharged and the state expresses an intention to appeal, they must be detained until they provide bail. There is nowhere, I do not see it anywhere in the Commonwealth countries where that happens. You are no longer an accused person. Only accused person is admitted to bail. The fact that you is enthroned and in fact your appeal does not put you in the position of an accused person, because already your guilt or otherwise has been determined by a competent court of jurisdiction. And please, Lamin, don't leave this matter as it is. Let us have the matter tested in court. Let us challenge the law, that provision of the law, which empowers the state to do so. Because the history of that legislation is founded in the case of Sanamani, the journalist, very prominent journalist, very prominent, controversial and prominent journalist. But then that is history. But as of the moment, we want to ask the government of the Gambia that should not resort to self-help. Follow the path of the law. And indeed, since you are going to, I don't know, whoever is going to argue your motion, I know these judges know that if my orders are flouted, you cannot come to me and ask me to give orders in your favor. I don't think any judge who is sensible will do that. You flout my orders and you come to me and you want me to really, vary that order. That can only happen probably in Yajam's time, when you have the mercenary judges, but not at the time when you have consensus judges who insist that their orders must be respected and honored before you can really come to me for reconsideration of that order. So I'm making this address, and particularly to the state, that you have failed in your efforts to demonize, to make UDP as a terrorist party. You have failed in that. And you will fail in several other instances where you want to put UDP in a bad light. I thank you all for your kind attention.